All right, guys, so this is really interesting here. Crystal Ball says, this is genuinely exciting. Rhode Island set to become the first state in the nation to reserve new marijuana business licenses for worker-owned co-ops. Wow. So this is from this article here, marijuanamoment.net. For the initial rollout, a total of 33 marijuana retailers could be licensed. 24 of those licenses would be new standalone adult use retailers, divided up equally between 6 geographic zones of the state, and 9 other hybrid licenses could be approved for existing medical cannabis dispensaries if they pay a $125,000 fee for the privilege to add recreational sales. Of the 24 standalone retailers, 25% would need to go to social equity applicants, and another 25% would be for worker-owned cooperatives. No single entity would be allowed to possess more than one business license, but people could invest in multiple companies. So, in other words, a quarter of the marijuana companies in Rhode Island are going to have to be workplace democracies. You could set up a business with, let's say, 3 of your buddies, a marijuana business, and you work out a deal for it to be a worker-owned co-op. So there will be no one owner, one manager, rigid hierarchy, everybody takes orders. It'll be a worker-owned cooperative. That's amazing. See, what's interesting about this is when you develop a new industry or allow a new industry, basically overnight, so when you legalize recreational marijuana in a state that previously didn't have it, you can experiment with stuff like this. You can experiment with different, economic models and see what works and see what doesn't and learn along the way. And this is an instance of the whole social equity applicant thing. The argument for that is you have some communities, historically marginalized communities, that the drug war has disproportionately affected them and locked them up at a higher clip, a higher rate. Black people, for example, various minority groups, for example, where they're saying, well, let's make sure they get at least 25% of the licenses, basically to ensure that the communities that were cracked down on the hardest and most unfairly during the drug war, they get the first bite at the apple, effectively, when you legalize marijuana. So now you could be the first legal businesses. So that's the whole argument for that. The whole argument for workplace democracy is, well, let's see how it goes. Let's see how it works. Let's see if, like, a leftist economic approach, yields positive results. And it very well may. So it's really fascinating to see. Now, the other thing I should point out about this legislation, and it says this in the longer article here, they're going to do expungement. So if you were locked up for a nonviolent drug offense, that's now you're freed, and that's now off your record. So that's wonderful. It'll be very interesting to see, of all the states that are legalizing marijuana and will in the future legalize marijuana, it'll be very interesting to see which state bills are good and which ones are bad. So an example of a bad one is, I think it was like in Ohio or Michigan or something years back, they had a vote on legalizing marijuana, but the vote was like to give all the power to this like one company that's connected to the governor. Okay, well, that's a bad way to legalize marijuana. And there are other instances of good ways like this here where you're experimenting with worker-owned co-ops and, giving people a chance at workplace democracy in this whole new industry. So we'll see. We went through the New York bill pretty closely, and it was a very interesting bill. There were lots of provisions that are, somewhat similar to this, where they're experimenting with all new ideas because it's a whole new industry. So anyway, we'll see how this goes. Hopefully in its final form, it passes like this. And it'd be lovely to see the marijuana marketplace be full of worker-owned co-ops. Hey, y'all, do me a favor and like and subscribe. It helps out big time in the algorithm. Click the bell as well for notifications when videos drop. And watch that video on screen right now. You know you want to.